Take two. On Saturday, I won on the lottery, but also I had someone try to scam $200 out of me after they had hacked the Pods Like Us account on Twitter, or as it's known now, X. Life is very often a give and take, and in one day alone, both sides of that were shown. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this is Pods Like Us Chronicles. I think it best to go straight to the incidents of Saturday, and try to be quick. No one wants morbid Marv. Well, you get enough of that if you read the blog occasionally. Saturday was good podcasting wise for the most part, because it saw me complete what was the second episode of Pods Like Us Chronicles. Hey, how meta is this? I'm in Pods Like Us Chronicles episode 3 talking about the recording of Pods Like Us Chronicles episode 2. That's a Twilight Zone right there. And yep, Pods Like Us Chronicles, it had already moved along to become something more. Which, if you watched and listened to it, you'd know that anyway. I kept the idea of different sections from the first episode, but also came up with a nice, simple piece of music made up of multi-tracked acoustic guitar and affected glockenspiel playing around a C major chord. Now, in the usual Marv manner when it comes to these things, I was wondering if it should be that, or whether I should try a major seventh chord, or even a more worked-up piece around a C note drone in an Indian style backed up with a tambura. And believe me, I went through the different variations therein, and you got what you got. Yeah. Yes, I do think this way. When I work on music, I will very often have a huge outpouring of musical ideas. Lyrics, though, are another thing entirely, and take longer now than they used to back in the old days when I was in bands and writing songs. Like a beast, I could write a ton of songs really quickly. Finally, the discussion with Tobaloba Suleiman about O-Trans happened, and the episode was finished, posted up to Patreon, and scheduled on Podbean. For now. Going to Twitter to post about it, I found that I couldn't log on to the Pods Like Us account, and discovered that someone had hacked it. After quite a bit of time trying to sort it out, including messages from the evil person behind it, I went to sleep, but not before finding out that I had won £30 on the national lottery. You lose some, you win some. And yes, I know it's the other way around normally, but that was me doing a play on words. On Sunday morning, not long after waking up, I went to my private Twitter account and sent a direct message telling the person who had stolen the Pods Like Us Twitter account that I was through talking with them, and I didn't care if they sold the account to someone else. And there was more to it than that, and I probably gave too much information here, was, as a teenager, I was raped multiple times by the school principal, and this is true, by the way, and that evil manipulative man destroyed me. I'm not letting someone who is just the same do it all over again. Other than the connections, basically, Twitter/X has turned to rubbish. It is dreadful in comparison to the social media that I joined almost on day one of it coming out. It was good then. And since that rich billionaire person who owns the car company where his automated vehicles end up having accidents all the time and rockets explode and cause damage to the ozone, it's become a load of rubbish where it's all moderated by artificial intelligence bots and there is no humanity at all. So yes, I love all the people that are friends and that I've been following and had relations with on there, but quite frankly, that social media is a load of old tosh. Here is a clip from my discussion with Hannah Puddefoot and Helen Quigley about the show Harry's Home, which is about a man who returns home after a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
It's something I've observed as well, which is said with zero judgment whatsoever. Direct children, it's very hard for children to look after parents anyway. And I think when somebody is suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, it's very difficult to separate the childhood and the whole life you've had with that person and then also try and care for them. Many people do it absolutely brilliantly. Many people struggle with it. And I kind of wanted to highlight the kind of distance that sometimes a grandchild and a grandparent can have. And you have more kind of sympathy and compassion sometimes. And again, that's not anything negative against the families that care for their relatives, but it's just easier as a grandchild to try and have a bit more empathy with your grandparent because it's a very different relationship. So I wanted that to kind of come across, and Rose Quentin and Timothy Blore, who play those characters, just did such a brilliant job of it, and I felt like it really came across in the way that they performed it as well.
So do I. Yeah, I mean, Harry is in an earlier stage of Alzheimer's, to my mind, because I mean, I've seen later stage Alzheimer's, which is terrible, which is why you have these bits where something will be said by one of the grandchildren, and then Harry will say something, and then the grandchild will then in fact Harry will say, well, it's okay because come the morning I'll have forgotten about that anyway. And it's not making light of it, it's just making it more comfortable for each other. That's what I meant by they have this sort of rapport between the grandchildren and the grandfather there that allows for that. And you do get the moments where Nicola Bryant's character, for example, most importantly, she will catch these moments and she doesn't like the fact that they've got this sort of rapport going on. She finds it almost offensive in a way that they're making light of it to her mind.
Yeah, and I think for Teresa's character and the way Nicola played her as well, it's incredibly hard for her to be in this new relationship with her dad, where her children have a more positive view of him than she does, whereas actually Harry hasn't always been, in her eyes, the kindest man. And I think there's a lot of that in elements of those relationships. I think sometimes, people aren't perfect. They make mistakes. And a lot of the time when dementia or Alzheimer's comes in at a later life, you forget who those people were as much as they forget everything else as well. It's very easy to kind of see them as one thing, whereas they weren't always that person. They were a vibrant human being in their own right. And I think that is a really important thing to sort of look at and kind of be more aware of as well. And the speech at the end that Phil Davis does so beautifully was really about kind of what people forget. And that's what I really saw as a child. When you see the patients who are suffering from Alzheimer's, they're seen as one thing, often by the staff treated like or talked about in a certain way. And they were like us once. And I think people forget, very understandably again, that does happen. And I just wanted to make sure that people remember who their relatives were and how they would want to be treated as well, even though they don't come across as that anymore.
On Tuesday, the 9th of June, I also read an article on Substack that was written by Dave Campbell, entitled, "If Your Podcast Was a Car, Would It Be a Manual Transmission or a Self-Driving Tesla?" In the article, Dave warns us of fully autonomous podcasting, where artificial intelligence is coming up with the show structure, the topic itself that it's about, the voices, the writing, editing, promotion, and everything else that there is to do with podcasting. He says that there is a place for AI in podcasting, but not full autonomy. Now, I wonder whether I'm supposed to be unbiased doing this show that I do and doing the work that I do in podcasting. But I agree that, AI is here to stay. We will say that much. On Wednesday, the 10th of June, there were 2 episodes recorded for Pods Like Us. The first of these was the postponed discussion with Alberto Betella, the creator of the game-changing podcast generator back in 2005, which went live in 2006. The reason why this was game-changing is because up until then, it was not easy to get a podcast up without, technical knowledge. And yeah, we did say that, it's if you've got that technical knowledge, it's not that difficult to do. But for people who haven't got that knowledge and haven't the time to be able to do that before putting a podcast up, it's quite something to do. Now, though, it's basically a case of going onto a podcast hosting site, adding a file along with details, and then it is all done for you. Back before this existed, it was a lot more complicated. Also, Alberto is a co-founder of RSS.com alongside Ben Richardson, both of whom I met and spoke with during the podcast show in London. Name dropping. Can't beat it. As well as being one of the biggest podcasting host sites out there, they also are major contributors in the updates that happened and are continuing to happen with what is called Podcasting 2.0, which is a fancy way of talking about updates to the RSS feed, which is the system that makes podcasting possible in the first place. To quote James Cridland of Pod News, if it doesn't have an RSS feed, then it isn't a podcast. Here is a clip from my chat with Alberto. Dan, who is a medical professional, does a podcast about medical work and about the work all over the world with doctors, nurses, and all of these things. And he brought out to her that they've got a podcast that puts across that this person who is an AI, and none of it has any human interaction. And he was saying it's full of inconsistencies and some dangerous suggestions for people as well. And this AI is saying that they were a doctor. That is the wrong side of AI, really.
Yes, because a true crime AI-generated podcast with an inconsistent narrative arc, that's annoying.
Yep.
But a health podcast with non-scientific suggestions and recommendation, it's dangerous. That's the whole point. Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
very offensive. I think Inception Point AI removed doctors now, and
Okay.
I think so. I think I read something, and again, I haven't judged openly. I get the business model. I'm concerned that the human creators are penalized by the algorithms, because if you have 3,000 episodes a day or hundreds of podcasts or new podcasts a week, which are also low quality on average, but if you have them, they compete with humans, and that's why I want the disclosure. Just disclose it's AI. But it's not the business model per se. I get where they come from, but really it can be dangerous, and nobody can really objectively say that's not the case.
Another take two. On Saturday, I had a recording with podcast producer Matthew Bliss, but I'll call him Matt, where, to pull the curtain away, the list of bullet points that I sent to Matt initially, he was okay with, but said that they were pretty much podcasting 101. The basic ins and outs and the sort of thing that he's done multiple times before. And then also in the chats, I noticed him mentioning that he had seen episodes of podcast as well. He'd listened to them, where, for instance, one of the episodes that he was fascinated with was the episode with William Corbin of Inception Point AI, and he had some opinions on that. So with that in mind, unbeknownst to Matt, I rewrote the list out entirely of points that we wanted to look at, or I thought that we could look at, and he was happy with those because it was more about going into detail of things that are going on in the world of podcasting now with technology and all those things. And it made for a more interesting episode in a sense as well. And quite frankly, a longer episode as well, really, because we went on and we really went to town on these conversations, such as AI in podcasting, the good and the bad sides to it, video in podcasting, and other things as well, such as, what you allow in podcast episodes and how you need to be sensitive to the subject matter of an episode. That's one of the things that comes away when you're doing an edit. Be sensitive to the subject matter so that you're not cutting it short in a way. You've got to allow the emotion in some ways in those things. And this sort of thing, it's interesting how you edit and produce accordingly. And then with the video, which is a clip that you are going to get after this, we discuss an idea for the video aspect that I personally don't think anybody has thought about, and I think it's an area that podcasts don't hit but could hit really well by putting this in place. I want podcasts to be podcast out there for everybody, no matter what. So we've got podcasts that are in different languages, and I'm promoting those as well. So I've had African podcasters on here, people from Japan, people from India and Europe and all these places. And now you've hit upon an idea that I think is a great possibility for the video aspect of podcasting. When you said that about ASL and sign language, that to me would be a great thing, is if there was an ability for people to add that level to it by having the video element, put the sign language in there to then that adds somebody else or another group of people that can get something from podcast that they're not getting anywhere else. That to me is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. We're in a time where accessibility can be catered to more easily than any other time in the world. And yet the majority of relative effort goes towards the majority stake and conception and ability. Like, I can't imagine why there wouldn't be a flourishing business for people to create signing optioned content for video first podcasts. I don't know why that wouldn't even be present. But perhaps that's just a gap in the market that we've seen that needs to be addressed in order to make podcasting actually more open for people with different abilities.
So very quickly pick up on a couple of bits that haven't been mentioned so far in the episode. So just to pick up on a couple of bits that haven't been mentioned so far. On Monday night, there was a fun recording of another podcast that I am a co-host of, which is the music-related podcast, Topmost to the Uppermost, where we are working our way through the US and UK singles charts from 60 years ago. And we're running behind on that because of issues with getting everybody together, because there's three of us, and all of us are podcasters. So myself and Ed Chen were joined by guest third chair John Stone, because Kit isn't very well. So we did that. That was fun. And then the bigger news of the week would probably be the fact that Pods Like Us has moved distribution over to RSS.com, which I've been thinking about where to move Pods Like Us, really, and see if I can get something else from another distributor. So before we recorded our chat on Wednesday, I mentioned to Alberto that I decided to do that after we'd been discussing it during the podcast show, in fact. So he said that he would get his people to help with what's called a fast track, which means we just speed things up a bit, so that Thursday afternoon / evening, Pods Like Us was officially now part of RSS.com, which is great because, I've got them at the end of the permanent group chat that's there to go to for advice and anything that might be helpful for the show carrying on and moving to the next level, which is a great thing. And but yeah, I'd still like to thank Podbean for 6 years of having the show up on there and doing what they do. But now we'll see where the next stage of Pods Like Us is. Also on Thursday, and I'm just saying this because it's one of those things that still surprises me. Also on Thursday, I spoke on the phone with Sam Sethi of True Fans, and to a lot of people, also co-host of the absolute necessity for everyone to listen to, which is Pod News Weekly Review. And so I'd mentioned to Sam about something that had come to mind, a sort of idea for working out getting music onto podcast. And so Sam said to give him a call because, and this is where, I thought, it's one of those things that I think, wow, really? Which is the fact that then, I contacted Sam on the phone because, of course, there's the one. Of course, I've got Sam Sethi's phone number in my phone. So I contacted Sam, told him my idea, which was that if there was a body or a group that could have details of music companies, music rights companies across the world, or they could find areas where music's been used in podcasts, find out who the rights holders are in the regions that the podcasts have been played, and then pay accordingly. So Sam mentioned to me that somebody tried that and it didn't work out, mainly I think because of distributors saying why should they pay, when to their mind it should be up to the podcasters themselves for paying for these things. But so there was that, and also Sam was one of the other main options that I was looking at for Pods Like Us to move to as an alternate to what ended up happening, which was RSS.com. So it was a difficult conversation because of me using an earpiece on my phone. So the audio for Sam was a bit difficult, and for me as well, because I could barely hear Sam because of all the traffic while I was walking into town and back. And so that was difficult, but also for me was difficult because already in place was the move for pods like us, and I felt a bit bad, even though Sam had said that, well, when he spoke to me about it during the podcast show, he said go with where your heart thinks it should go. He's happy that the show would just go on and grow and become something that I was hoping for it to become, which is good. But I just felt a bit difficult because of, he's a friend, and that's it really, because he's a friend, and I didn't want to feel like I'd gone behind his back or anything, really. That's a sour point to end this podcast on, so I'm going to end it on an up. How great are those clips that you've heard from forthcoming episodes? I think there are some fantastic discussions in there, and I'm going to clip some more to place into next week's Chronicles, because there are some more absolutely fantastic clips there and discussions for you all to look forward to. So with that, I wish all of you podders the best. Please follow, rate and review the show wherever you are listening to it. Any rating is good. And if there is any feedback, positive or negative, then please let me know. Pods Like Us is available everywhere that you can find podcasts, and we can be contacted through podslikeus@gmail.com. And if you want to find the links to the socials or to the Patreon, the easiest way to do that is to go to themarvzone.org.